Welcome to the Shattering Inequities podcast, where we uncover the bold, research-driven strategies that are transforming education for every student, especially those historically left behind. In each episode, we'll highlight leaders who are not just imagining a better future, but actively creating one. Through real-world successes, challenges, and actionable insights, this podcast is the space to crowdsource solutions that advance shattering inequities in education. And now, here's your host, Dr. Avelar La Salle.
Hi, and welcome to the Shattering Inequities podcast, where we believe that every student is entitled to a premium education, no matter where they go to school, where they live, or what their circumstances. My name is Avelar La Salle, and for over 4 decades, I've worked in schools and districts to help disrupt the systems and practices that contribute to uneven outcomes among student groups. I've done this having held most of the jobs from teacher to site administrator, district administrator, university professor. And for the last 28 years, I've been the founder and president of an organization called Orenda Education, where we partner with schools and districts to do this very kind of work. Like you, I believe that every student deserves a premium education that historically only some students experience. The goal of this podcast is to highlight the powerful work that so many people in the ecosystem of education are doing to shatter systemic inequities in education that tend to disadvantage the same vulnerable student groups. But my training as an academic practitioner, this is too good an opportunity to pass up. So we'll also be doing research together. This is in essence a research project. So first, this program will be a space where educators and leaders who have figured out how to get results with students to share experiences, insights, challenges, successes, failures, so that we might learn from them. This will be inspiring and hopeful, and I think we all really need that right now. Second, though, we'll use this straight up as a research platform. The one criterion for being a guest on this podcast is that whoever participates will have demonstrated results with most vulnerable students, so that those results are beyond random chance and as a result of the efforts of our guests. Together with you, the audience, we're not only going to learn from these individual cases, but we'll take periodic vista points. We'll take these reflection trips where we look back on a set of episodes and identify what the trends are, the patterns, the key strategies. We'll see if there are any absolute do's, any absolute don'ts. I have no doubt that we'll confirm some of what we all thought we knew all along, but I also suspect that there'll be some challenging of conventional wisdom as well. Of course, we'll publish these findings and include insights from you, our audience. So this podcast, in essence, is a crowdsourcing of best thinking from across the globe. We'll deepen our understanding of what we know truly works in overturning historic patterns of underachievement of the same student groups. What we'll do is ask you to help shape a series of white papers that capture and amplify the most effective strategies in doing this work. And what we're going to do is advance our collective depth of knowledge as a community of people who care for the education and future of all children. This work is very personal to me in that, like many of you, I'm sure, I represent the very students we're talking about right now. So let's start with an actual experiment in true research mode. We know that there are certain life circumstances that make some students more vulnerable than others to academic struggles. Let me share 16 adverse childhood experiences that statistically predict academic struggles. I'd like you to listen to all 16 and tally how many of these apply to your students, to students you care about, or to you. The number is going to be important at the end, so please be ready to add up your tally. Here we go. The first, physical abuse. Number 2, emotional abuse. Number 3, sexual abuse. Number 4, physical neglect. Number 5, emotional neglect. Number 6, parental separation or divorce. Number 7, substance abuse in the household. Number 8, mental illness in the household. Number 9, domestic violence. Number 10, incarceration of a household member. Number 11, community violence. Number 12, bullying. Number 13, homelessness. Number 14, foster care placement. Number 15, severe economic hardship and poverty. And number 16, experiencing racism or systemic oppression. Okay. What's your count? Add it up. All right. Mine might be 8, maybe. And that's all I'll say about that. Key statistics highlight what the impact of these adverse childhood experiences are on academic outcomes. For instance, if you have 3 or more of these, you are 3 times more likely to experience academic failure compared to your peers without these experiences. 3 times. If you have 3 or more of these, you're 6 times more likely to have behavioral problems and 5 times more likely to have attendance issues, which all relate to academics. It's really a miracle some of us are still here, I think. So here's the point of the podcast. And yet, despite all these challenges, many of us, many students, many former students have found success. Not enough, I'm sure, I know. But it's interesting to learn about individual cases of people who have overcome the odds. So how did a little girl who scored an 8 or more on this risk assessment end up getting a doctorate from Stanford, doing a whole career in education, and being in a position to stand before you as an expert in the very field that statistics would predict would be nearly impossible? And yet, as my hairdresser told me, how is it possible that her father, who grew up in rural Mexico on a mountaintop in a border town, how is it possible for him to have just celebrated his 100th birthday? No medical care, no health system. It's the and yet, because exceptions happen. But I think it's even more fascinating from a research standpoint, not to identify the individual successes, but the successes that happen by design in group, not by accident. My friend named Karin once suggested that we should be calling these education blue zones after she watched the Netflix show about longevity blue zones, places on the planet where entire communities live to be over 100, well beyond 100 by design because of certain lifestyle choices. So they break the odds with longevity. And those are longevity or health blue zones. So maybe we're talking about studying education blue zones. I don't know. I think I like the term. This program will identify people who have been instrumental in designing systems that have resulted in overcoming these odds for large groups of students. In essence, they're challenging the notion that demographics have to determine destiny. That's a dangerous idea if you happen to have scored high on that adverse childhood rating. And we know that there are entire neighborhoods, not just individuals, but entire communities that would rate very high on that scale and put them at very high risk of academic struggles. So many of us are doing this work. I know that I'm not the only person on the planet. I work with an amazing team, and we work with amazing partners in schools and districts and in elected officials and nonprofit sector, etc. But I think many of us are working in isolation or semi-isolation, and we're not sharing our knowledge as widespread as we should. This Shattering Inequities podcast is going to be a platform for us to all grow together, to share our learning broadly in real time, which I think is our scholarly responsibility and our responsibility as citizens of the world. And it'll help us remain inspired and uplifted. And I think we all know right now is a time when we could really use that. I come to you today to invite you to join this action research project, in essence, to actively contribute, to watch the different episodes, and to share your insights, your thoughts, your questions, your ideas, potential guests, your success full blue zones yourselves where you have shattered systemic inequities. I invite you to be full partners in our quest to ensure that every student receives the premium education they so deserve. Next time, we'll kick off our research by meeting one of the most amazing superintendents who leads one of the most challenging school districts and who has taken on almost the impossible. But things are moving now. There are data, there are results, and students' lives are being transformed by design. As a coda, let me end with something that's very special just to me. My organization is called Orenda Education, Orenda. I say this not as a commercial whatsoever, but to share its meaning, which is very special to me. Orenda is a word that comes from the Iroquois language, and this is what it means. It means the energy force inherent in every human being that gives us the power to change the world and to change ourselves. So I'll end this inaugural session by saying to all of you, may the Orenda be with you. Until next time, bye-bye.
Shattering Inequities requires more than conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future of education together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for all students. Thanks for listening.